All right, welcome back. I'm Eric Lindahl, and it's my pleasure to have a short interview with Professor Lorena Barba, who's one of our keynote speakers. Lorena, it was a great talk, but for those of less fortunate than us and couldn't hear it, what was the main theme of your talk?
The main thing is that we have new tools in science that have come from the machine learning and AI subfield, and that we have to relearn how these methods fit into the good and rigorous scientific method. And I use some examples from the literature that show what is called antipatterns. Antipatterns is a word that just describes something that is recurring, but is not a good idea, and it could be counterproductive. And so we use those antipatterns as just a humorous way to point out ways that we can improve.
No, and I think it's great, and this touched so many chords with me too. I remember being a young scientist myself, and it was a few decades ago, that many of these things are so natural when you are a young scientist. You want to push your results. You're probably thrilled yourself at how amazing it is, right? And it's so easy to start crossing this line where we're not necessarily spreading misconceptions, but we're not necessarily contributing to building a community.
I think it happens that when we use more and more intense computing as well, these are relatively new methods in science. If you think about the scientific method, the experimental methods, there's been hundreds of years to learn how to properly to agree on a certain way of being rigorous. But data-intensive and computational-intensive methods are newer, comparatively, and we still don't have agreement as a community on how to inject rigor and scientific method into those things. So we have a lot of discussion about open science and reproducibility in computation in the last few years, and now that we have a new kid in town, machine learning and AI, we need to revisit some of those methods, some of those.
But this is probably the data aspect is one of the biggest challenges too, right? Because that open science in an experimental lab that might consist of producing the entire protocol or the entire data, which might be 4 pages of a Word document, that's trivial to share. But in particular, machine learning is one of the challenges, even as a researcher, even if I in principle want to share, we might be talking about the amounts of data being so large that there are simply no simple services that I can use to share it today, right?
There are many challenges that have to do as well with privacy and security and data stewardship, people say. And certainly just the raw storage requirements. But we can have some ways of track the provenance of data files and use standardized metadata, use version control on the metadata. There's some communities that are solving this very nicely, like the ocean community, atmospheric and ocean sciences with the Pangeo project, for example. They're bringing a lot of cloud resources and open infrastructure ideas. There's many interesting things happening in other fields that we can learn from in terms of handling large amounts of data responsibly.
So if I'm a user at CSES, for instance, now, and I run machine learning, and I have, let's say, 0.5 terabyte of data, and I want to do the right thing, I'm junior, what should I do?
Well, 0.5 terabyte is not that much nowadays.
Where should I put 0.5 terabyte
well,
if I want to share it?
It is a lot. So 0.5 terabyte. So for example, a service like Zenodo, which is one of the most favorite methods for storing data files with archival quality, they give you immediate and free deposits up to 50 gigabytes. But if you want something larger, you can always email them and ask. It would be possible to store a 0.5 terabyte data set in Zenodo with a...
I think that's a great take-home message. I know my team keeps using their free 50, but we too should probably get better at actually asking for enough storage to share all our data.
You can ask for more, absolutely, yes.
So, any take-home message for general students? What should they do, the next generation, so they avoid repeating our mistakes?
Well, a lot of it boils down to having open conversations with your colleagues and valuing the collaboration and the teamwork, valuing your colleagues and respecting your colleagues, because that brings in an interest on communicating your science transparently, because you don't want to waste your colleagues' time reinventing things or trying to discover details that were not in your paper. So it's a lot about community building and developing practices and standards as a community. It boils down to having good conversations.
And that's probably a great take-home message too, right? We should reward people for doing the right thing, not just punish them for doing the bad thing. Thank you very much, Lorena. It's great listening to you, and I look forward to more great communications during the week. And thank you.
Thank
we are
you.
going to be back.